Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast.
Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Josh Bremmerer. Josh Bremmerer is an innate navigator and experienced leader in the boating industry with over a decade of experience in management and company development and a lifelong passion for boating. As the manager of Glacier Ski Shop, Josh grew the small shop into a nationally recognized business and increased profits by 400%. With that background, it's no wonder Josh started his own business in the boating industry, Komodo Covers. Well, good afternoon, Josh. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome, Josh. This is exciting. And what I love most, and we talked about this before we started recording the podcast, is how entrepreneurs really light up, get the juices flowing and light up the scene here on this platform. And so I appreciate that. And you're a young entrepreneur. I love your story. I went out, did some research on you, and it's just amazing that you've taken something that's very practical and obviously integrated some technology as well, which is just, like I said, amazing. That's our platform as we talk about emerging tech. But let's jump right into these questions so we can learn more about you, Josh. You've got quite the career in the aquamarine industry as an entrepreneur, and now you're the founder and CEO of Komodo Covers. Could you share with our audience the secret to your career growth and what inspires you?
You know, it's been an interesting career. You know, I dropped out of high school when I was 16 years old and got my GED and went to culinary school. And this was all really because I was skiing on the World Free Skiing Tour, so as an extreme skier. And so that's kind of the start of my career. So I was working full time in a restaurant at 16. And as things evolved and I decided that I wasn't willing to accept the risks of my extreme skiing career in the winter, and then the late nights of my skiing and of cooking in the summer, I ended up going and managing a ski shop. And that ski shop was archaic. We were on paper. And it was one of those things where, you know, it was 3 guys in a small ski shop. And as we started to grow, that was really when the entrepreneurial, part of me took on. And so I spent the next 8 years actually digitizing that ski shop. So moved to barcode, state-of-the-art rental equipment systems, and really made it efficient. I think that's kind of where my spark started. I've opened a few restaurants and, the whole technology making business more efficient thing was really where I got my start and my launch into being an entrepreneur. And then, moving into the future here, I had opened a boat dealership 2 years ago, or helped open a boat dealership. It was previously a motorsport shop, and we started a marine branch, and I got looking at the marine industry. And then I had a great opportunity to work with my co-founder, my brother, John, and launch our dream business, which is Komodo.
I love that story. And again, you've got that diverse experience in different verticals that really helped shape you, right? And mold you into what you are today as far as an entrepreneur. And that's why you're successful. So I appreciate you sharing that. And Josh, what was the single biggest business decision you had to make during the first year of the pandemic? And how different is your business strategy now?
It's really interesting because, we had talked about this a little bit before we went on, is like, it's a difficult thing. What was my biggest business decision? So the one I wrote down when you sent me the questions ahead of time, Brian, was definitely, was to delay our launch. That was the biggest decision I had to make. We were, it's the midst of the pandemic. We're a pandemic company. We started basically with COVID. We technically formed January 1st of 2020, but by April, we were just dealing with patents and stuff, and we rolled in. So we were a COVID business. And so I was getting timelines in April from manufacturers working on prototypes and things like that were unrealistic for our current climate. And so that decision, and so I set up this timeline based on quotes and forecasts from manufacturers and stuff that I was like, I think I can get working prototypes done in a year. And I think at that point we can launch and we can be manufacturing in, we can have products to sell in 3 to 4 months from our finalized prototypes. And in the reality of the pandemic is it's just important that you double all of your timelines. So we got to a point mid last summer where, we were promised 10 prototype covers in 2 months, and we got one. And that was at the point where I was like, I had all these things in my head and I was like, oh my God, are we really going to be able to make this? And we just had to sit down, our executive team, and make the decision. We're like, hey, we need more runway. Let's push this back a year. And we're so glad we did, because our product is so much more evolved than it would have been. And so that was my hardest decision.
Wow. A lot of people had to pivot during this time and the challenge, and the fact you just said you had to really double your timeline there, getting one prototype versus 10 in 2 months, that's pretty crazy. But I think we've all learned from this. So I appreciate you sharing. And Josh, this is a technology platform, so we focus on that a little bit here. And you're obviously leveraging some new and emerging technologies within your business with your new product, right? Is there something you might be able to share with us today?
Yeah. So, one of the reasons we started Komodo is because boat covers in their current form just don't work. And so I wouldn't say we've created a new technology. What we've done is we've taken a lot of technologies that are available in other sectors of the market and integrated them into a product that works for the marine industry. So our airframe is based on an established technology of kite surfing kites, air bladders. And so we took their 15 years of R&D and we pushed that into our product. There are a lot of complicated parts of our control unit, the commander, but basically we took a lot of existing technologies and built specialty integrations to make them work. With our PCBs and all of our 4G chips and all of those things, and our app development, our native app development in Suite, we had to come up with inventions to patch together. I wouldn't say patch, it's not the right word, to effectively combine technologies, but we didn't have to really invent. Like our dehumidifying device is a Peltier device, which is, very simple, been around for a very long time and very effective. So hopefully that answered your question.
Absolutely. I love that. How, again, you integrated all these different technologies or products that have been tried and true in other industries. That's just simply amazing. And I hope people go out and actually look at your product, because I thought it was pretty cool. So Josh, last question. Can you share something from your career experience that would be helpful for those looking to grow their career in manufacturing or entrepreneurship?
I really want to hit entrepreneurship here. We've been working with the local entrepreneurship program at the university, and we've had Western interns working with Komodo, and everyone's like, what's the magic bullet for entrepreneurship? And I actually have an answer to this, which I'm very proud of because it took me a long time. Really fundamentally, teamwork makes the dream work. The only way to be successful as an entrepreneur is to build a very, very tight-knit team that you can rely on, because there's so many balls in the air. Like my job, 1 minute I'm talking about finalizing PCB decision. The next minute I'm talking about, textile, the warp and weft of a fabrics for some strength thing. And then I'm talking to you, Brian, and then I'm dealing with budgets and stuff. So if you don't have a team that you trust and you can rely on, you're not going to go very far. So going at it lone wolf isn't really a good option. And I even like to extend this to our manufacturing partners and our attorneys. I feel like they're part of our team, and they actually act like part of our team, which is good. And when I go into starting those relationships with these people, I'm not viewing it as I'm putting money in a vending machine and you're going to produce a contract for me. I'm constantly selling them on our dream, getting them invested in Komodo and trying to bring them on to grow with our company. And because of that and those relationships and my personal loyalty that I've learned through my career, not to burn bridges and be loyal to the people you're working with, even if it costs you more, you'll get way more out of it in the long run. And so that as a whole approach is kind of my best piece of advice. It's like, hey, go put your dream team together. And I'm not talking about hiring people onto your staff. I'm talking about a manufacturer who you're going to develop a real relationship with them and give them a say in the manufacturing process. It's a give and take. Your attorney who you can call on the weekend and say, hey, what's up, Will? Got this problem. He's like, yeah, no worries. Look at it tonight, send you an email in the morning. And that's not this black and white relationship that everyone thinks they need to develop with their third parties. We bring them in-house, sell them on our dream, get them involved, and rely on them.
That's awesome. It really, really is. And, we can sit here and talk all day about the effects of having a great team. And no matter where, if you're an employee, a manager, or you have your own business. And I can certainly attest to that. So Josh, thank you. And Josh, it was a pleasure having you on today. And I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
All right. Thank you very much, Brian. It was a pleasure being here. And I'm sure we could talk for hours.
Bye for now.